Salut, Strenx.
Hi.
Okay, so we're here with Strenx. I'm at IPL at the moment, but I'm going to do an interview kind of about his Quake career, some of the famous moments I wanted to know about. And so, first of all, let me go to the first moment I heard about Strenx. Like in Quake 3, you'd sort of been around, but only really playing in French tournaments from what I remember. And then the first time you came around, you were really just known kind of as a gimmick player, because people just said, oh, he has this really good LG. That's what he's famous for. He has this great shaft. But no one knew anything else about you at the time. When do you think in Quake Live you actually got to become like good? When were you like legitimately becoming a competitive player, do you think?
When I was more famous, you mean? Yeah, I think it was when I started IEM Europe 2 years before with the interview with Cooler when I had to shoot situations. So basically, thanks to him, I became more and more famous. And yes, I tried to prove that I could be the same online and on LAN. I could choose good situation, as he said. And yes, I think it started like this. And then I started to be third all the time on any events like Hanover, Cebit and stuff like that. So yes, it started to be like this. And when I started really to be more and more famous was in 2011, when I always reach third and second, when I managed to beat Cypher, I managed to beat Cooler and Avec also, which was really impossible for me before. So I started to gain experience, more confidence, and I was also very famous because I won a lot of Zotacs, and people were almost pissed about it because I was all the time winning it. So basically it started like this, I think.
Actually, this interview you mentioned, I mean, it's kind of a classic moment now, because it's kind of like the old school veteran guy kind of like telling the young guy who's inexperienced, like, you know, you lost because of this reason. When you think back to that period, like how inexperienced were you? Like, did Kula have some good points in what he was saying, or was he being cocky? What do you think?
No, I think it was totally right. Because my tactic was like I was all the time aggressive. I wanted to kill, and then that was pretty right. The only things I wanted to do is to shaft and to kill the opponent. And then I started to listen his advice, and I started to be more safe, to use more brain, less aim, and it went well after all because I could make more results and stuff like that. So yes, thank you a lot for him, and yes, it helped me a lot. I'm sure about it. It helped me a lot.
It seemed like Quake Live, especially early on in the game, was actually, compared to Quake 3, more of a defensive game because you could use rockets a lot more and you could kind of like, the rail wasn't so strong, so it seemed like players who just went all out, it wasn't necessarily suited to them so much, and people had to learn a bit like rapha. They had to get this style of being more like, you had to have a very good defensive game when you're in control. How difficult was this for you to learn, since your natural style was like aggressive, you know?
I think what is really important in Quake Live is to know the spawn system really perfectly, because when you know it, you can back as good as you want, and that's why. And also, it's 10-minute game, so it's totally different from a Quake 3 style. I know that from Quake 3 style, its spawn were a lot random, so you couldn't camp if you wanted to, if you killed the guy, because you can abuse the spawn and kill him. And in Quake Live, basically, you can wait a little bit and abuse the spawn system. You can camp and you have only 10 minutes. So basically, if you want to camp in this game, it's really easy. So I really think player from Quake Live who likes to camp a lot would have a really hard time in Quake 3. And I really miss Quake 3 for that, I think. And especially because it had 15 minutes of game also.
The most famous guys in Quake Live, obviously, were the big four of Avec, Cooler, Cypher, Rapha. You played a lot of them, many tournaments, so I want to kind of go through them and like ask different questions for each one. So the most obvious person to start with is Cooler, because somehow you always just got paired up with him in the brackets. You won a couple of big ones later on, but then early on it seemed like he always somehow just got you. How did you feel like, how was the games versus Cooler, and what was like the relationship like? Because it seemed like it was sometimes contentious, you know?
No, I think Cooler, outside from the game, we got along really well. I think we did it on purpose in game just to break mental and stuff. And yeah, he liked it, I liked it also. And yeah, the problem that I had with Cooler is like I was not confident when I was playing him. He was really confident against me, I was not. And then after that I came more and more confident, especially when I practiced with Avec and Cypher. So I felt totally different, his skill was totally different, I felt more confident, I could play my game and stuff. So yeah, with Cooler it was really hard because I respect him all the time, maybe too much, and which made me not play the game I used to play. So that was basically a problem for my game against him, I guess.
When you were playing against him, even though in Quake Live his aim did get a lot better than it was in Quake 3, I mean, people would obviously still say you had better aim overall. What was it about his game that allowed him to beat you in those early days, do you think?
His rocket launcher, I'm sure. His dodge and rocket launcher, and his way to control the maps when he's in control. The moment where he's not in pressure, like he's like a pacman, you know, when he has control and he has to come back, it's like he takes everything. You try to go somewhere, you will find him like he has a wallhack or something. I don't know if he times 5 items in a row, but he's everywhere at this moment, so you have a lot of pressure. And at this moment, he just hit everything more than every players in the world. Like he will make his rail when he has to make it, he will make his full when he has to make it. So it's really impressive for a kind of player like Cooler, and this is how you recognize a pro player instead of a casual players, I think.
Since you're known to have one of the best aims in Quake Live, even with the rail later on, what's different about Cooler's dodging from other players? Because everyone mentions this, like he's just got something about the way he dodges.
Yeah, his dodge is really simple, but it's really hard in our point of view. Basically, he just move forward, move backward, move forward, move backward, because you guess that it's going to go left and right. So basically, you just try to predict, but it doesn't move. So basically, you miss 2 rockets, and at this moment, when you realize that he moves forward and backward, he go to left. So basically, you miss a lot. And anyway, even if he move left and right or forward and backward, I will always miss my rocket because it's the worst ever. So that's it. I use a lightning gun instead.
Okay, so let's go into Rapha now, because Rapha's someone who seemed like maybe even more than Cooler, like annoyed you and frustrated you when you played him.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about Rapha was they said like, he's really smart and tactical and stuff, but the one thing is supposedly his aim was worse than the other big 4. Yeah, every time he played you, I can remember there would always be a map where somehow he'd have like 70% rail, or somehow it really seemed to get to you. So what was so difficult for you when you played Rapha?
Yeah, it's really strange. I just know that I won him only once in LAN, 3-0 if I remember well, but the other times it all the time won me. I don't know, when you play Rapha, I just have the feeling that it won't be really hard because his style is just look normal in my side. You know, when you compare like against Cooler and Cypher, I always think that it's gonna be easier versus Rapha, but everything you try to play against him, you always manage to lose it. I don't know how to explain this strange feeling. It's really hard to explain. When I play him, I don't feel that he completely destroy me and stuff. He just play his game. He play what he should play, and that's good. That's really good. But I don't know how to explain his kind of game or something like this. It's impossible to explain. But if he managed to win it, it's just because he's just better than it and he deserves it. So.
Before Rapha came along, Cooler was kind of known as like the most smart player. Like he was the guy who had the strategies for everyone.
Yes, that's right.
But then Rapha obviously did it in a different way. Like how are the two different if you play them?
Cooler is a guy who will rush a lot if he is not in control. I mean, if he's control. Sorry. How to explain? He's a kind of guy. If you compare it with Rapha is more campy. He won't try to use his rocket in situation. He will try to find the perfect situation to use rocket against you. And Cooler, he will just rush you with rocket because he knows that his rocket is better than everyone else, I think. And he will try to time all items, and Rapha will just wait that you make a mistake. So that's basically the difference between them. And I think Cooler has better LG than Rapha. And Rapha has a better rail when he has to make it. I know what I'm talking about because of DreamHack stuff and toxicity, basically. And yes, those styles are really different, but Rapha dodge is easier than Cooler, to be honest. But Rapha style could be harder. It looks simple when you think about it, but it's harder when you play him.
So if we move on to Avec, of all the big 4, it seems like you never really had to play him so much in like playoff rounds, etc.
Yeah, I always play him in group stage. Yeah.
What did you think of his style against yours? Because of all the 4, him and Cypher seem the more who are kind of straight up to play. Like they're going to go in for every fight as well. They're not trying to play such a strategical game. And so, was it easier for you to play against Avec than to play against Cooler and Rapha rather?
I feel more confident when I play Avec. I think his style works good against me because Avec is known to be aggressive all the time. So basically, I knew what to do because he always rush, but really not stupid rush. He do it smartly, but in a smart way. So yes, basically, I really like how he plays. It's good for my game style because I like it. I can use my lighting gun as I can used to do. I can go play middle range all the time because he likes to use middle range also. So I don't know. I just feel good with Avec. and I know that I played him a lot in group stage. I always managed to make it. I mean, at 2011 for sure. Yes, I prefer to play Avec instead of Cooler or Cypher for sure. I think he stopped Quake already now. Yeah, unfortunately.
So when you played Cypher, because you had a couple of famous games against him, you beat him in the third place game at IEM, and QuakeCon you beat him like really early in the tournament, and he was like the defending champion. It always seemed like with Cypher, he was more of like a rhythm player. Like if he got into this certain groove, then he could just destroy anyone. But then also he could be kind of maybe a bit more mentally weak than the other top players, because sometimes he'd drop out earlier in the tournament, even though he's so skilled. You know, what was it like for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's because Cypher's style is really different from all the other players. Basically, his tactic is something that you will think looks stupid, but it's not stupid at all, because he does it on purpose to make you think that it's stupid, but basically it's really smart. And basically, that's why sometimes you lose against players who are supposed to be more weak than him. So basically, he does a lot of stuff like this, which work a lot, and he hits so freaking good with his rocket and stuff. He can rush you with 100 HP and 0 armor, and you make like 400 damage, and he just make it. And sometimes I think, as I said, it can look stupid, but for me, it looks really smart and genius. And that's why he managed to make a lot of results to like first over and over. That's Cypher style, and he should keep this. It should keep this tactic. And against, I think, against casual players, who, like I don't know, challengers, it should play normal, like he times and that's it. Yeah. Then I think he would be the best, but all the time.
Ah, okay. The interesting thing about Cypher is, even though he won all these titles, the other players who were most famous for their aim was like you, Sparty, Kilson, etc. But it seemed like sometimes Cypher could have the best aim in the world. You know, like, sure. Were there times where he could out aim you, etc. What do you think about that aspect of his skills?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
What did you think about like his skills overall?
Of Cypher's skill, I think if he's on fire, he can be the best. He is the best for me. In my mind, for me, he will still the best. He will remain the best, and still the best for me. More than Rapha or Evil, if he's on fire for sure. So his skill, if he has his aim on fire, if he has his move, his dodge and stuff, nobody can beat him, I think. Really. This is what I think.
I said earlier on you were most famous just for your LG, and it seemed like below the big four there were these three players. There was Sparty, there was Kilson, there was Strenx. And these players were mainly known for like really good aim, but in different senses. But obviously, like, someone must have had the best aim, someone must have had the best aim with specific weapons. How would you break down these three players, you, Sparty and Kilson? Like, what were the strengths in terms of skills?
Basically, I really think Sparty problem, as I played with him with Snaik a lot of time, he just relied too much on his aim. Too much. All the time when he doesn't have control, the only things he wants to do is to rail. Even if he has a lot of armor and not so much HP, he will use rail. He just play time and weapons and aim. He doesn't play like try to undermine his opponent. He just try to just play his game, just time and stuff. So basically, if the guy just camp a lot, he will have a hard time. About Kilsen, he can be the best if his aim is on, but sometimes he does a lot of mistake, like mistiming a lot. Sometimes he has total control and he will miss Mega Health in a really important situation, a Red Armor in a more important situation. So those two players, if they try to know how to outmine the opponent, they can be the best also in the top for sure. They can beat. Yeah, I think I was the same as them for a long time, for 2 or 3 years. But then I started to play more against Russians because their kind of game, their style of game, they don't rely on their aim. They just move, just time, and try to outmine people. Sometimes they will leave an item just to kill the opponent. And this is what I did in Kiev with Cypher and Avec when I practiced a lot with them. I realized they told me a lot of stuff secret in Quake, which I thank them a lot. And basically, what they taught me was really impressive. Like, sometimes for 1 minute you can miss a Red Armor on purpose just to follow, just to reach your opponent. Sometimes you have to time bubbles, as bubble, just to kill your opponent. And this is what I did in QuakeCon. And when you do this, you're not afraid, you're confident, and your opponent is afraid and stuff, and you have more power than your opponent. And this is what I realized during the game. And this, I think, to be honest, this is what I have more than Sparty Kilsen, I guess.
An interesting thing about Quake Live, like I was saying earlier on, maybe it was more defensive. It seems like the players who had the absolute best skills kind of relied on their skills so much, and they didn't do so much of the timing, they didn't try and control or strategically outposition the enemy, whereas the players who in theory had less skills, like Rapha is a great example, he was all about positioning, all about timing, etc. So what do you think the balance is like in terms of how, depending on your skills, like what type of game someone should ideally try and play in Quake Live, do you think?
The best things that should be? I think positioning is the best, and this is why I said Cypher is the best for it. All the position he makes are really hard to hit, and he always hit a lot in this position. So I think position is the most important, because when you have to kill someone, if you don't have control and stuff, you need to have the best position ever to win your game. So basically, Quake is all about positioning. I think timing is important, but not so important than people think. It's all about positioning, killing your opponent, because basically, sometimes you won't get the red armor on purpose, but if you have the best position, you will make a lot of damage compared to your opponent. So it doesn't matter that you kill him and you don't have the red armor, because basically you will kill him for sure, and you can have another armor. So yes, position is the most important in this game, for sure. And Cypher do it well. And Rapha, he has good position also, but the position are different from Cypher. Rapha has good position, but from his position he won't hit as much as Cypher. Sure. So he doesn't die for sure, but he always managed to survive in this situation. So that's really good for him, I think.
Before, you kind of joked that you came third at every tournament, but it did seem like this for a while. Like you always got to the semi-final, but then one of those big four names got past you. Then you had this QuakeCon tournament. You got all the way to the final. At the time, everyone thought Cypher was the best player, and you'd just beaten him. You had to have felt like you were like destined to win this QuakeCon. Finally, you were going to win this event, surely. Especially with the storyline of how you got there. You know, what was that like?
I felt that I could win this event because I had to play Cypher, then I played Noctis, and then I played Cooler, in semi-final as always, that I'm used to play him all the time. And this time I felt I need to beat this guy because he always won me in semi-final and I had to play for the third place. And then I managed to beat him. So when I managed to beat him, I was like, okay, this event is mine, because I won the most difficult players in this tournament, Cyphers and Cooler. So I really wanted to beat Rapha. Fortunately, we had to wait 10 hours after the final, so it was pretty crap, but it was the same for Rapha, so it's the same. But I would prefer to play right after, because I was really confident and really happy about it. But unfortunately, he won me from my side, so congratulations to him. But yeah, I don't like to watch it again because there are some situations where, yeah, it's raging situation, because sometimes he has like 2 HP and yeah, God was with him. I don't know.
Can you think back to your career and just pick out like a series or a game where, if I asked someone what was the perfect Strenx game, what was the best game he played, what comes to your mind as like a good example?
QuakeCon for sure. There are which game? I would say Cypher. I would say Cypher because when I played him, I never thought about timing item. I just thought about how I can kill him, how I can reach him, how I can make him game nightmare. Like using position, not moving, just abusing the position, abusing with lightning gun, just hitting from the good position, and this is what I did a lot with him. And I did it also with Cooler. But to be honest, the best games that I had in my whole career was the MSI Beat It against Rapha.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It was Arrowwalk on the map, and DM13 Lost World, when he tried to trap me from behind, and then he has 200 to 200. I was like 100 to 200, and I managed to kill him when he made one full to me, and I managed to beat 3-0. But I think it was my best game ever from this career, I think.
Earlier on in your career, I mean, you were obviously quite young relative to a lot of the other players. You were known as kind of a cocky player, or you said things that were sure. But I mean, you said things that some people thought were rude, like calling the hang Buzz Lightyear or whatever. But I want to ask. Obviously, it seems like you matured a bit over the years. Do you still think that some of that persona is useful to use, like because it's fun for fans, or people like a bit of trash talk? Do you still do some of it?
Yeah, I like to trash talk a lot, just because I think that it works good in event. Because when you try to trash talk someone, his mental will be down and he will play less good. So basically, you're proud because you destroyed his mental, you play better, and I always do it and it works. And this is what I did a lot in Zotac. So it proves, look, I trash talk a lot in Zotac and I won a lot of Zotac, so it proves that it works. But yeah, I think I'm like everybody. I just like to have fun, but when I trash talk, it's just for fun, and I don't mean it. I really don't think a word about it. I like everyone, so there's no problem about it.
Since we don't know how much more Quake is left, or if there even is any big Quake tournaments left, how would you like people to think back on the career of Strenx? What would you like them to imagine when they think of Strenx the player?
LG. I mean, Strenx LG, best LG. These are things I want to hear all the time. I don't know. I just want to be famous for it, because I really try to prove. I really wanted to prove that I could have the best LG, but I still think that Toxic has the best, in my opinion. But this is why I really wanted to that people remember me, and also Strenx DM6 player. This campground map that I miss so much. I don't know why they removed it, but I can't wait for they put it again. And yes, I really want them to remember about it, and the situation when to be aggressive for sure.
Do you have any final words? Anyone you want to say hello to? Say thank you.
Yes, I will thank you for the interview for sure. Thank you to people who matched me, and no problem about I'm playing Shootmania, but I will go back to Quake for sure, because Quake I'm still Quake player in my heart for sure. When I trash talk, don't think that it's serious, because I always never mean it. So it can look cocky and stuff like that, but I don't think I just like it, so it's just fun, I think, in myself. And yes, thank you for flying to trust me for Shootmania and stuff. Thank you for the interview again, and see you next time for Quake, and I hope I will trash talk again.
Merci beaucoup.
Y a pas de problème, no problem. Ouais.